and welcome to Senior Moments. This is a broadcast service of Cleveland Community College on C19, also on Spectrum Cable, and you can view it with friends and family online at c19.tv. And we hope that you do share that link with friends and family who may not see it on Spectrum Cable, so that they can also get this valuable information. We love to share information about senior living here in Cleveland County. I'm Jackie Sibley Newton, your host, and today my guest is Dr. Pamela Bozeman. And Dr. Bozeman and I have some history together. We talk a lot about guilty caregiving, and you have done some extensive research on being a guilty caregiver.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of how that got started and why this is an issue.
Well, it's really interesting. It was never something I set out to do. I was working on my final graduate degree in communications, and I was actually studying communications and how when that process gets disrupted by any form of dementia, what that means for the communication process. I spent over a year doing that. And through events that happened with my mother, who has Alzheimer's disease, events happened. Mm-hmm. And they happened like in a 24-hour period. And I remember sitting there, and it was an idea. I was 4 hours away, and she had gone to the hospital, and it was 11 o'clock at night, and I was going, I cannot get on these North Carolina roads and start trying to get back to Shelby at this point. And I felt so guilty, and I thought, oh, well, here just comes another dose of guilt. Well, the academic in me kind of ran with that for some reason. And I started researching guilt, and I came up with this whole area that I felt really had been not talked about in caregiving. Mm-hmm. And I have talked to a lot of people, read a lot about it. And typically when we research guilt, what we find is that it has very negative connotations. And so that would explain why when we are guilty about something, when we feel guilty about something, it rolls over into other emotions. Mm-hmm. So there is, I think we have a slide where I did a little graphic on guilt. And what it is every emotion that we have, I believe, in terms of caregiving, is fueled by this idea of guilt. And I thought, mm-hmm. okay, because what happened was I thought, how can I get out of this guilty modality? Mm-hmm. How can I get out of that? And I thought, well, first of all, I got to figure out why I feel guilty. Well, mm-hmm. I'm angry and I feel guilty about that. It's taking my time, I feel guilty about that. And it ends up in an infinite feedback loop. So that was really how this all got started, and it took off. But guilt, I've come to believe, and we know this, guilt is a social construct. And I think it's actually a gauge on how close or far away we are from what our inner compass, from what our ethics are. So I think it can be a great barometer, but at the same time, it's a heavy feeling. And in order to deal with it, you have to get past the underlying emotion.
And it's something, you're right, that people don't talk about. Mm-hmm. And they feel guilty talking about
it.
That's the thing. They feel guilty talking about it because I shouldn't feel this way. I should just be doing whatever it is that's making me feel guilty. I should be doing whatever it is to make me not feel guilty.
I know.
And then sometimes you can't get over the guilt. Maybe the guilt is I'm not being responsible at work because I'm taking care of my sick loved one, mm-hmm. but I'm feeling guilty because I'm not able to give to my sick loved one what I need to give to my sick loved one. So you're torn between two guilts. There's no winning that.
There is not. And what happens is when we look at, it kind of is a multi-step process. So when we look at coping, all right, just our general coping mechanisms, basically we come up with this thing that it's our capacity to cope versus our desire to cope comes head on with our should, woulds, and coulds. Mm-hmm. In caregiving, our should, woulds, and coulds are evil. They are simply evil.
They will eat you alive.
I have a vacation planned in a month, and I'm already feeling guilty about taking the first vacation I've had in 6 years. And my mother does know I'm going. She's not happy about it either. When the pugs see me packing my suitcase, they won't be happy about it either. Nobody's going to be happy about this but me. But I want people to understand, I think, and just try to guide them through this process and understanding that guilt it's what's driving everything, and how do we step out of it? Now, I can't make you feel not guilty. I don't have that
There's
answer.
no magic potion for that. We're not going to get that from you, okay?
But what I can get you to see is these are the main issues that can cause guilt. And then here's how you gently kind of pull yourself off the ledge from that. And I really hope that that's what the Guilty Caregiver it does for people. I know I've had many instances where I've been out in public with my mom, and people will ask, can I help you? Are you okay? You know, they see me carrying heavy stuff and pushing her wheelchair and whatever. And they always do this, Jackie. It's amazing. They go,
they know.
and it's just kind of this silent symbol that comes across, right? And you're like, oh no, you've been there too. And I think caregiving can almost end you up in a PTSD kind of situation. And I have found myself here lately kind of snapping a little bit about that. Somebody will do something and go, you know, and it's nothing more than, oh God, here we come again. Oh, you're making another problem for me. And it's really tough when the person you're taking care of is navigating that boat, right?
Yeah. It's like, I just can't handle anything else. Don't put anything else on the stack.
That's it.
I can't take it.
But you know, guilt is, I think that it can be a good thing, but I also think that we have to appreciate the fact that it's saying to us, all right, you're in this situation now. You're feeling bad because you think you should, could, would do this. And the reality is we can't always do that. And what we have to do is back ourselves out a little bit and be okay with what we can do, but more importantly, be okay with what we can't do.
You have to give yourself permission.
We do.
To be human, really. To be a human and accept that you're a person.
Right.
And you have needs and feelings and have to rest. And I tell people all the time, because, you know, at Terabella, we deal with a lot of families, we help, but you can't fill a cup if your cup's empty. So you have to make sure that you're doing some things to fill your own cup, because you can't take care of anybody if you're making yourself sick trying to take care of everybody else.
Well, and you know, that's the reason my mother had to go into long-term care, because she lived with me for 2 years, but her needs outweighed what I could do. And it was the hardest decision in the world, because I swore I'd never do it. And I thought when the time came for us that we would simply bring people into the home. And that did not work out for us, unfortunately. And so she had to go into long-term care. And I deal with the guilt on a daily basis, because I know that's not what she wants. And she wants to come home with me. And it's just not possible. It's simply not possible.
It can be a dangerous situation for
a
lot of reasons, especially when dealing with dementia.
Right, because in their mind, they're okie dokie fine. My mom thinks she totally takes care of herself. That's what she believes. And I'm going, okay, yeah, but you know, you don't remember that Daddy's passed most of the time. You don't really know where you are. There's so much she does remember, but there's a lot that she's starting not to. So I think, you know, guilt is, it can be our best friend or our worst enemy. But what I want people to know, now, Guilty Pleasures is the support course that I have created to hopefully help folks with this. And let me just say this about this. It is not a college level course. Do not panic, because the tools that you'll find on our website are tools that are very quick maybe 10 or 15 minutes at the most with these. These are all sections of the course. And doing my best, that's just, I am literally doing my best, right? Dealing with doctors, these are issues that cause us guilt, stress, and back and forth, right? My house versus your house versus somebody else's house.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
you know.
what's the best scenario? What are we
Yeah,
doing?
right.
Yeah.
And then the caregiving roller coaster. This one, dealing with digging up bones. That one, what that is all about is that we have, when we go to caregiver somebody, we have the best of intentions. And where our relationship is right then, especially if it's good, you're thinking you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. But all the stuff that comes back to you, everything gets triggered. If a button was ever pushed by that relationship, it will show up.
Yes. And
your-
mother-daughter relationships are so tricky.
Yeah, and I'm the only child,
Yeah.
so it really gets whatever. But in that one, you have to be really careful about when you bring something up, you want to deal with it. When you're dealing with an elder with dementia, they cannot.
No.
So you have to learn the fine art of sucking it up and going, okay, it's fine. It's fine.
It's it's all fine. Yeah.
And inside, you're doing this turmoil thing, which I think is why it's so important that you either have a therapist or a support group that you're a part of, because these issues will come up. And they've got claws. And if you don't deal with them, they will deal with you. So, you know, that's kind of what this is about. But, you know, the guilty pleasures, again, it's just something I don't want to take up. Caregivers don't have a lot of time. But at the same time, I want to offer useful information. So that's kind of how that support course is going to work.
Well, it's amazing that there is something online that people have access to or will be able to at least have access to when they just need something to tell me I'm normal, something to
Right.
tell me this is okay. We're going to get through this. This is, other people feel this way. And I think sometimes, and I don't know, I can't speak for every human, but I know for women sometimes we just need that validation of you're not the only one. We all feel this way. We've been through this. We all feel this way. We all deal with this guilt. We all deal with this emotion, and having that support of being able to go and say, okay, yes, somebody else has felt this. Somebody else has dealt with this. Here's some things that help them get through it. And it's not a recipe, like you said, that's going to fix everything.
Right.
But the peace of mind of knowing that you're not a horrible person, you're not terrible. This is normal to feel this way.
Exactly. And, you know, one of the things is I tend to be a very factual person and what have you. So there are some people I know that have a caregiving process, and evidently it goes wonderfully. And they never really have a whole lot going on. And I'm going, no, this is a nightmare. This is harsh. This is hard. This is unforgiving. And I feel sometimes like I'm bumbling and stumbling my way through it. And so I want to share that with other people. So in case there are others out there, I understand she's my mother. I love her. There's never an option of my walking away from her for any reason. I would slay dragons for this woman. But at the same time, I do get angry. I do get frustrated. And I want to give that a voice so that maybe other people who need to have a voice in that area too. It's not that we resent it. I don't resent it, but I do have some negative emotions attached to the process, and I'm just going to be honest with you about that.
Well, and that's a normal thing, and I think any psychologist will share that as well. In our support group, we have had professionals share that, and even through the diagnosis, you go through kind of a grieving process with the diagnosis, and anger is part of that. Just, it's okay to be angry that this is even happening. It's normal that that's a emotion that happens.
Well, and you know, that kind of happened to us. The problem is we've never had anyone in our family who had dementia. Not in my mother's side of the family, certainly not on my father's side of the family. So I feel like this freight train came out of nowhere. There was no preparation for this. Well, you know, that happened to Grandma, or that happened to my aunt, or what have you. And so it's all been a huge learning curve and very unexpected. And my father passed away 10 years ago this year. So I like to say sometimes he missed all the fun.
Yeah,
And if he and the three of us were very much the Three Musketeers, and I get really sometimes I think, why did you have to leave me with this?
Yeah.
Why? Because he knew something was wrong with her when he passed, but he did not tell anybody.
He was masking it. Yeah.
And that, you know, and I couldn't figure out what he wasn't telling me when he was dying in hospice. And then finally, about a year and a half later, I had that epiphany. I thought,
Yeah.
why didn't you just tell me? Give me
Yeah.
some warning. Because if you give me a warning, I'm good. But when you blindside me, that's tough for me.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and talk more about how you can get information about the guilty caregiver.
Hi, I'm Deb Harden, host of For Your Information. The goal of our show is to educate and entertain you about all things pets throughout Cleveland County. We have various guests joining me each month to talk about dogs, cats, pigs, whatever kind of pet you can think of. Also each month, we will be joined by some furry friends looking for their forever homes. For your information each month, right here on C19 TV and online at www.c19.tv.
Welcome back to Senior Moments. I'm Jackie Sibley Newton, your host, and my guest is Dr. Pamela Bozeman. We've been talking about the guilty caregiver. Now, the guilty caregiver does have information that
Right.
people can access on a website.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about that and how people gain access to that and what they can expect there.
Okay, so the website itself is actually called Grumble, Grumble Productions.com. And that's because I have 4 pug dogs.
Yes.
And when you have more than one pug, they're called a grumble. So that's where that came from.
Yes.
And the pugs are featured prominently in the advertising and whatever. But anyhow, so this is a website that's going to house 3 help centers, if you will.
Okay.
The Guilty Caregiver is one, Around the Academic Campfire is another, and then Lifelines is the third one. and they won't be coming online till fall. But what each section will have is information that is free content that people can go on and access just to help them deal with guilt and explain what it is and what the academic information is and what have you. Then there'll be a section for what's the word I'm looking for? Resources.
Okay.
Okay, there'll be a resource section, and then there'll be material that you would pay for, content that you would pay for, very nominal fee, nothing real expensive at all. Not looking to be a millionaire here. And then there'll be a podcast, and I'm really excited about the podcast. So the Guilty Caregiver and all of its basic information will be up June 1, and it's just grumbleproductions.com. And then the podcast will start July 1. And I'm really excited about that. What I want to do is sometimes it'll be just me sharing something. Sometimes it'll be a conversation with somebody else, maybe a medical professional if I can get somebody, or somebody from the Alzheimer's Association, just people like yourself even, you know, that have dealt with this issue of taking care of elderly people with, or it doesn't even have to be an elder, because we know that dementia can strike younger people too.
It can strike younger people.
And the Guilty Caregiver is really focused on people with some type of dementia. All right, that's my focus with this. And it's going to have a lot of great information up there, links to other websites that I think are credible, etc. So it's really going to be a huge resource for folks to kind of help put things in place, but at the end of the day, just really hash out this idea of guilt, what it is, how it's working in our lives, and how we can better deal with it.
Very valuable for people, because a lot of times we have information about the disease. We have information about treatments. We have information about care and about options for that, but not as much for the caregiver, and not so much information about here's why you feel the way you feel. Even with the support group, which I'm so grateful you were able to come to some of the support groups and offer that support for our support group. But you know, a lot of times that is it's a great time of sharing, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity that everyone has to share what they're feeling, so that we can let people know. Well, I've been there too, and you hear that a lot in support group. Oh, I've been through that. Here's how we dealt with that, and everything that they share, from what we're going through legally to, you know, mom has dementia now. We have to deal with her finances, and I wasn't listed on her finances, so now we have to go through the legalities. So we deal with a lot of those things, but nobody talks about why the caregiver is feeling the way they feel and how that's so normal. So this is a great resource for the caregiver to be able to get information to help them walk through these feelings.
Well, you know what? I have heard many of my favorite authors who have written books, and I'm actually working on a book with this, and they say, write the book that you wish somebody had written for you. And so that's really the approach I've taken to this website and to all of this material. The public speaking that surrounds it and everything else is, here's the information I wish I'd had. And, you know, as an academic, I can ferret out information. I'm really good at that. Well, they teach us how to do that, okay?
It's kind of your
And
job, is researching that out.
So there is a lot of information out there about caregiving. I think my problem with some of it, or a lot of it, is that it's just willy-nilly. It's not categorized. And there's different aspects of caregiving, and I think that if it were categorized, it would make it more accessible for the public, because some things you may not need, right? And other things you may. So I think that if I had a really, really big picture goal with this, it'd be to try to categorize this so people could say, oh, okay, legal issues. Oh, this is what I need to deal with. Oh, medical issues. This is what I need to deal with. Family dynamics. Oh, okay, this is what I need to deal with.
Yes.
And break it down for folks like that, again, who don't, I mean, as caregivers, we just don't have time to start hunting and pecking.
No, you have to be able to get it quickly because you don't have a lot of time to do the research or
Exactly.
energy.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, at the end of the day, you're just empty. You're just finished. You don't have the time or the energy.
That's
And
true.
that's a big part of it too, is just, having it at your fingertips would be so much easier and
Exactly.
accessible. So very,
Exactly.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for the idea and for coming up with it and for offering it to the public and for coming up with so much work that you've put into putting it together.
Well, I'm a teacher, and as a teacher, we strive to help the public. Our niche is to give students information to allow them to be better citizens. And so with something like this, my goal is to help people see a different way of looking at things so they can be a better caregiver or just be a little bit kinder to themselves.
Yeah.
And that is me, pot calling the kettle black, because
We all are there.
I admit
yes.
I have beat myself up
Yeah.
big time. But so that's the ultimate goal, is just to help other people.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for being on the show. Thank you for watching the show, and please, again, share this information. We welcome anyone and everyone to join us at the Dementia Support Group that meets the fourth Thursday of the month at Terabella at 5:30. Dr. Bozeman is sometimes there, a guest when she can be, and we enjoy talking with each other and sharing information. So please join us, and we hope to see you back next time on Senior Moments.
I'm gonna soak up the